Good evening, friends, fiends, and night owl supremes. Welcome to A Bit Late. I hope the night finds you well and in the mood for a story that takes some twists and turns, but everything does work out in the end, even though by rights it shouldn't, because the protagonist is some guy that just can't stop lying, literally to save his life and himself a ton of embarrassment. But there are, surprisingly, some dragons, some riddles, and, well, plenty of peas, but not really, even though that's in the title. Anyway, without further ado from me, get comfy, get cozy, grab a cat if you can, and let's settle in for tonight's fairy tale, The Pea Emperor. Once upon a time, something wonderful happened. If it hadn't happened, it wouldn't be told. There was once a good-for-nothing fellow who was so poor and needy that he had not even enough to eat to be able to drink water after it. When he had wandered through all the countries in the world, that's quite a distance, he returned home somewhat more sensible. He had passed through many perils abroad, knocked his head against the top of the door, been sifted through the coarse and the fine sieve. He would now gladly have pursued some trade, but he had no money. One day he found 3 peas. After picking them up from the ground, he took them on the palm of his hand, looked at them, pondered for a long time, and then said, laughing, "If I plant these seeds in the ground, I shall have 100 in a year. And afterwards plant the 100, I shall have thousands. And if I put these thousands in the earth, I shall reap who knows how many then." Which is exactly how Animal Crossing works until Isabelle yells at you for having too many trees on your island. Like, I don't know, didn't people come to my island to be in the wilderness? It was a deserted island. Anyway, I digress. Then if I go on this way, I shall finally become a rich man. But if I could help wealth to come quicker, let me see. He went to the emperor and begged him to order through the whole empire barrels in which to keep his peas, which don't exist, by the way. He's like a middleman. When the emperor heard that he needed such a quantity of barrels, he thought he must be stifling in money, and was more and more convinced of it when he entered into conversation with him. What is true must remain true. He didn't keep his mouth shut, but opened it and bragged till it would have been supposed that real pearls fell from his lips. He told the emperor what he had seen in foreign lands, related how things were here and there, spoke of this and that till the emperor stood before him with his mouth open wide. When he saw that the emperor marveled at his statements, he bragged more and more, saying that he had palaces, herds, and other riches. Ooh, buddy, digging yourself a hole. The sovereign believed the boaster's stories and said to him, "I see that you have traveled and know a great deal, and are cunning and experienced. If you wish, I will gladly give you my daughter in marriage." Because that's not a leap at all, right? Okay. The braggart now regretted having told so many lies, for he did not know how to escape the monarch's proposal. After reflecting a short time, he plucked up courage and said, "I will gladly accept the position of son-in-law you offer, and will try to show you that I am worthy of it." Okay, so at least he's gonna let his actions speak for themselves. Maybe, I hope. We'll see. The necessary preparations were made, and after some time an imperial wedding was celebrated in the palace. Then the man remained there. I mean, why not live in the palace, right? 1, 2, several weeks elapsed, and no trace of peace and wealth appeared. Finally, the emperor began to repent what he had done, but there was no help for it, and the emperor's son-in-law perceived, from the manner of the courtiers and nobles, that they had very little respect for him. His cheeks burned with shame. He made useless plans. Did he even plant the peas, I wonder? I mean, I hope so, but you don't know. Tortured himself to find some means of getting out of the scrape, and could not even sleep at night. Wow, I definitely relate to this story. Well, the not sleeping at night part. One morning, without anyone's knowledge, he left the palace at dawn, walked on till he came to a meadow, and wandered along absorbed in thought, without knowing where he was going. Suddenly, a rosy-cheeked man stood before him and asked, "Where are you going, gossip? You look as sad and thoughtful as if all your ships had sunk in the sea." The emperor's son-in-law related his dilemma and what he was seeking, and the man replied, "If I deliver you from difficulty, what will you give me?" "Whatever you ask," he answered. "There are 9 of us brothers," said the man, "and each knows a riddle. If you can guess them, our whole property shall be yours. But if not, your first child must be ours." what is it with beings wanting children in fairy tales? Like, I know, like, replace the children and swap them at birth kind of thing, but I feel like we're just sort of trending on the baby swap bargaining lately. Anyway, the emperor's son-in-law, utterly crushed with shame, agreed, hard as it was for him, hoping that before the child was born, he might find somebody who could tell him what to do. So they set out together that the stranger might show him the herds of cattle he owned and his palaces, which were not far off. They also instructed the herdsmen, swineherds, shepherds, and laborers what they were to say if anybody asked to whom the flocks and herds belonged. Oh, this is a big deceit. Very, very big deceit. The emperor's son-in-law returned to the palace and said he would take his wife home the next day. It's probably about time. Can't live in your parents' palatial basement forever, I guess. On his way back, he met an old man in the fields, and seeing how aged and feeble he was, he pitied him and offered him alms. The old man would accept nothing but asked permission to enter his service, telling him that he would be none the worse for it, and the other received him. When the emperor heard that his son-in-law wanted to go to his own palace, he was so delighted that he commanded everything be arranged on a grand scale in order to accompany him with imperial honors. I mean, that's one way of calling a bluff. Overdo the reception. Therefore, on the following day, the whole court was filled with nobles, soldiers, and attendants of all kinds. All the directions for the journey had been given by the old man who had taken service with the emperor's son-in-law. He said that he was the emperor's steward, and all praised his energy, dignity, and industry. The emperor was in high spirits and set out with the empress, the emperor, and his bride, who's also his daughter, for his son-in-law's possessions. The old servant went before and had everything in good order, but the poor emperor was as pale and dejected as if somebody had showered him with boiling water. Ooh, I feel like that would make you pink or flay your skin. Sorry for the visual. He was thinking of the riddles and how he could guess them. They drove and drove till they reached the fields. Here was a beautiful meadow, beyond it a grove like the Garden of Paradise. When the overseer of the fields saw them, he came up cap in hand. "To whom do these estates belong, my friend?" asked the emperor. "To the emperor," replied the man. The emperor grew fat with joy, for he now believed that his son-in-law really was no beggar. They drove on some distance further and met numerous flocks and herds of all sorts of animals. The emperor asked one keeper after another to whom they belonged, and they all replied, "To the emperor." But when they reached the palace of the 9 dragons, the emperor marveled at its magnificence. Everything was in order. They were received at the gate by a band of musicians who played the most beautiful tunes ever heard. The interior of the palace was adorned with real gems. Dragon Palace. A magnificent banquet was hastily prepared, and they drank the finest wine. After the emperor had wished his son-in-law every happiness, he returned to his own home greatly delighted with the riches he had seen. But the emperor was almost dead with anxiety. Again, can totally relate, for different reasons. Evening came. The old servant said to his master, "Master, what you have seen of me since I entered your service must have convinced you of my fidelity. Now I assure you that I can help you still more." "Are you telling the truth?" asked the emperor. "Because you always tell the truth, emperor. Anyway, do not doubt me for an instant, master, and I ask one thing besides. Let me spend the night in some corner of the chamber where you are sleeping, even if it's behind the door." Ooh, that's not weird and creepy. I know his intentions are probably good, but just kinda creepy. "Moreover, I advise you not to answer a single word, no matter who calls you by name or how great a noise is made." Dun dun dun. "Be it so," said the emperor, and so it was. After they had lain down and put out the light, they heard a dull rumbling noise like an approaching thunderstorm. Then a hoarse, rough voice said, "Emperor, emperor." "What do you want?" replied the old man. "I'm not calling you," it replied. "I'm calling the emperor." "That's just the same thing," replied the old man. "My master is asleep. He's tired." Then the noise of many voices was heard, as if people were quarreling. Again the first one repeated, emperor, emperor." "Which is it?" the old man answered. "What is one?" "The moon is one." "Is it you, master?" burst Dragon. Then a terrible wailing arose as if all the spirits of evil were abroad. And another voice said, "What is two? 2 eyes in the head see well. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 3? Where there are 3 grown daughters in a house, beware of putting your head in. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 4? The cart with 4 wheels runs well. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 5? 5 fingers on the hand hold well. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. Again there was a noise like a thunderstorm, and the palace shook as if the earth was quaking. And again there was a shout for the Pea Emperor, but the latter became more and more quiet and scarcely ventured to breathe, but remained perfectly still. This time too the old servant answered. Another voice asked, "What is 6? The flute with 6 holes blows well. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 7? Where there are 7 brothers, don't meddle with their affairs. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 8? The plow with 8 oxen furrows the earth well. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. "What is 9? Where there are 9 grown daughters in a house, it is not swept. Is it you, master?" Burst Dragon. That's a lot of questions, and I'm not sure those answers made sense, but maybe something got lost in translation? I don't know. The Pea Emperor, who heard all this, could not sleep all night long, even when it grew so still that one might have heard a fly buzz. He waited for daylight with the utmost impatience. When he rose the next morning, the old servant had vanished. He went out of the palace, and what did he behold? The scattered corpses of 9 dragons, which he gave to the ravens. While thanking the heavens for having preserved his life and delivered him from disgrace, he heard a sweet voice say, "Your compassion for the old man saved you. Always be charitable." The end. Remember your ABCs. Always be charitable. So that was the story of the Pea Emperor, which takes some twists and turns and has quite a few confounding riddles that I'm not sure I quite understand myself, but maybe you do. Do let me know in the comments if you do understand them. But imagine waking up and seeing the corpses of 9 dragons in your front yard, essentially. That's a lot of dragon souls to absorb if you needed to power some shouts like ASAP. But I guess those are good raven food. If you remember from the tale The White Snake, the protagonist kills his horse in order to feed some baby ravens. I kind of like this approach better, just give them something that's already gone. But on that weird and slightly morbid take, I do hope you enjoyed the telling of tonight's tale. Now off to sleep and dream what you will, or stay a while and enjoy another tale. Whichever you choose, I'll speak to you again. And until then, stay spooky, my friends. Good night.